I'm not a natural speaker. I do pretty good one-on-one, or maybe around the dining room table, but I'm not a person that enjoys getting up in front of a group. And those of you that heard me share at the church on a week ago Sunday, I explained that I used to own 23 Taco Bell restaurants, San Antonio, Albuquerque, and Phoenix. Had five in Phoenix, and I never could even speak to my managers. Couldn't do it. I would try, like at a Christmas party or something. Couldn't do it. So my partner always did all the talking for me. And when I went to the first Milton Green seminar, those ended up running over 1,000 people. There was only 30 when I went to the first one. And Milton Green said, he said, how are you getting home? He knew I was from San Antonio. I said, at the airport on American Airlines. And he said, I would like to take you to the airport. And so we pull up and we're sitting in front of American Airlines, DFW airport. And he says, you're going to be teaching this one day. And I started laughing. I mean, it was the funniest thing because he obviously didn't know who I was because I couldn't teach anything to anybody. Matter of fact, in Sunday school, if they handed me a verse to read, panic would set in, and I literally would get sick and go out and throw up just at the thought of reading a Bible verse in a Sunday school. Now, that's not just shy, that is horribly shy. And anyway, that's the way it had always been, or assumed it would always be that way. And when I said to Mel, I said, you know, Bill, you're so far wrong. I couldn't teach anything to anybody. I said, I can't even stand up in front of my own managers. And he said, that's a curse. And I never heard that term, and you know, he said, that's a curse, and I'm going to break it right now. And you're not going to have it anymore. I mean, that's the kind of person Milt was. That he knows that he knew these things, and he understood these things, and he taught us. And anyway, he reaches over and lays his hand on me and prays for me, and I never had the problem again. Amen. Now, does that mean, that in itself should tell you something. Me standing here is one of the greatest miracles I've ever seen in my life. So anyway,
I do have to tell one story on that. We had a Sunday night class together at the Baptist Church in Mesa, where we were, and we had to check off this list of things as we went through, and you had to quote some verses. And Dennis sat there and he said, "Look, you know, I'm not lying to you. I know the verse." And we're like, no, you got to get up in front. He never would get up in front of 12 people. It
was just the hardest thing in my life. And anyway, so that in itself is something. But anyway, we're supposed to talk a little bit today about an experience I had with cancer. But I want to tell you there's a spiritual side to these sicknesses and that God taught us. And so I have to be very careful because, see, I have learned from experience that God is, let's say, is very sensitive. And you start giving credit to something else other than Him, and you can you're on your own for a while.
Yeah.
And I've been there, and I've had to learn the hard way, so I have to be very careful not to develop a teaching around things that don't include God, because I'm here for a purpose. And what the Lord showed me early on is that this whole Bible is about one thing: how to bring a people from the depths of sin into the fullness of God. In other words, walking in the victory of God, in His image and His likeness. And you say, well, you know, that's not really that, you know, or that'll happen when we get to heaven. I'm going to tell you, if it don't happen here, we better be concerned about whether it's going to happen in heaven, because His promise is it'll happen here. He is going to raise up a people. Now, whether I'm still alive to see it, or whether I'm involved in it, that's another matter. But I can just tell you, God says He's going to raise up a people that are going to walk in His image and His likeness. And the question is if we're going to be a part of it or not. And we can exclude ourselves, or we can include ourselves by the choices we make. So anyway, that's my message that God gave me, and I've been teaching that message for over 35 years. So, but I'm going to share some. The first thing, you know, Neil Green opened our eyes that he's saying that this Bible teaches you that God is your healer. That's what he taught us, and he said, and this is how Jesus did it. This is how the disciples did it. That's how we're supposed to do it. And so he taught us. And I remember I was at a meeting, and the first time I ever saw someone healed, there was a lady that came, and she had a goiter right here, huge goiter. And on Monday, she was having surgery, and this was on Saturday. And Mel said, Dennis, won't you and a couple of people take her over there to those chairs and pray for her? And I said, all right. I've never done this. I mean, I'm part of the group, but you know. So anyway, we're praying, and I've got my hand right there just below it. And I'm praying for this lady. And all of a sudden, I see this skin just go loose. In other words, it's hanging there. There's nothing inside. There's no goiter. It's just loose skin hanging there. I mean, that quick. And I looked at that, and I looked at those guys, and we were looking at each other. I mean, it was overwhelming to see. But see, God does that kind of thing just to confirm to you that you're on the right track. Just keep walking, you know. And I've seen hundreds since, but I just want to say that was what it took for me to just kind of give me another one, give me another one, give me another one. Because now I know, you know, now I know that, you know, God's working with us. This doesn't happen. You know, you can say, well, yeah, they got better, you know, over a period. I'm telling you, this was in an instant. It was totally gone. And anyway, so, you know, God began to lead me, and I'll tell one other story. I was in Africa, Tanzania, Africa, and there was a Southern Baptist missionary that invited 3 of us to come over there, and he said, I would like you to teach healing to our people. He said, I've started, I'm trying to think, I'm going to say 2,000 churches. I believe I'm correct with that number, but I mean, he had churches all over Tanzania, and had been there for, I think, 22 years. And his name was Doug Knapp. And Doug said, I'm getting ready to retire, and I would like you to teach our people about healing. You know, being a Southern Baptist missionary, he wasn't really able to go down that road, but he said, you can. And so, anyway, so he had a meeting, and the first meeting, I had 3 of them around the country, and the first meeting there was 1,000 people there, and the room wasn't any bigger than this. You go, really? I'm talking about the benches. There was somebody sitting every 12 inches, man. I mean, I don't fit in 12 inches. But you know, I mean, and they were lining the walls, they were standing in the doorways, they were leaning in the windows, you know, it's just people everywhere. And anyway, so I said, today we're going to be talking about healing. And when I did, they rolled their eyes. Now, I didn't know African people in Africa rolled their eyes. I just thought that was an American thing, And I almost burst out laughing because, and when I said, oh, God doesn't heal here in Tanzania? I said, that's interesting. He sure does back home. I said, well, let's find out. I said, is there anybody here sick? Not a single person. I go, out of all these people, there's no one sick? Not a single person. And finally, this little lady, she's sitting on the front row and she raises her hand. She was quite old and anyway, I said, come up here. And so she gets up and this is how she was looking at me. Because her back was like that. And I mean, you might go, oh boy, the most extreme case in the entire house, But if you knew me, that's the way I like it. And so, anyway, I said, would you like God to heal you today? She said, I sure would. Of course, the translator is translating for me. And I said, is there anybody here that would like to see this lady healed? I think about it. Is there anybody here that would like to see this lady healed? Not one person raised their hand. See, that's what false teaching does to you. It just drains all of it out of you. You don't expect nothing. You don't want to expect anything. And so, anyway, I said, are you telling me there's not one person in this crowd that wants to see this lady healed? Finally, a lady raises her hand. She's like about 4 rows back. I said, please come up here. I'm sure glad there's somebody here that wants to see this lady healed. Anyway, I asked the lady what the problem was. She said, my back, And, I mean, how do you function like this, Jesus had one of those, by the way. And anyway, so the lady comes on and said, now I know if I pray for this lady and she's healed, you think it's me. And I said, the problem is I don't want you to think it's me because it isn't me. If Jesus doesn't do it, it won't get done.
Amen.
So I said, I'm going to have this lady pray for her and we're going to see if God heals here in Tanzania. Now, is that bold enough, And so, anyway, there was 2 other men traveling with me, so they know. And so, anyway, I said, I want you to put your hand right there on her back. So she put her hand. I said, now I want you to repeat after me. And so we pray a prayer. We say, Lord, we need you to show up. We need you to show these people that you do heal today, and you do heal in Tanzania, and you do heal with Africans, not Americans, And so we pray this prayer, and then we take authority in the name of Jesus over that back, and we command it, because he said, whatever you ask in my name, I'll do it. And so we command it, and guess what? We hear crack, like snap, crack, pop, Rice Krispies, We hear this cracking sound. And it gets louder and louder, and this lady is totally standing.
Praise the Lord.
Thank you, Lord. I mean, their mouths are hanging open. There's no rolling eyes, I can tell you. And anyway, the amazing thing is, God healed every single person there. And there was hundreds that were sick because they didn't believe that God would do it. So anyway, I'm just telling you, and that we have seen it, but it takes a belief in God that you have to step out beyond. Okay, so we're going to talk about health here a little bit. When I was 6 years old, we lived in Missouri on a farm. Actually, we moved to town right about then, so I'm not sure if I was on the farm or in town. But anyway. My dad was a farmer, and he, because of asthma, moved to town and became a carpenter, and spent all of his life as a carpenter. And I became very sick, very ill, and being poor and we didn't have much. Why, the hospital was 35 miles away. Why, so they waited and waited and waited, hoping I'd get better, right? Trying every little natural remedy you can think of. It turns out I had a ruptured appendix, and by the time they got me there, I was just barely alive. And anyway, last thing I remember is the doctor slapping a rag over my mouth, and I thought he was killing me, you know, just a little kid, you know. And anyway, they did emergency surgery and pumped all the poisons on my inside. So I can just tell you, since 6 years old, I've been fighting to stay alive, you know. And anyway, but by God's grace, you know, I'm still here. But anyway, when I began this pursuit of God, things begin to happen. And they will. Everything you learn, you'll get tested for, to see. And Satan has that permission to test you, to try you. And, you know, I think God uses Satan to refine you, you know, and by your response to these trials, it shapes you and forms you into his image and his likeness. And right after I began walking in this, all of a sudden one day I had what we thought was a heart attack. And it turned out it was gallstones. How many have ever had gallstones? Anybody? Yeah, okay. You know, a lady told me one time, she said, you know, gallstones is very similar to having a baby in the pain, you know. And I said, no, it's not. And she said, yeah, I've had both, and I know. And I said, yeah. And she said, well, why do you keep saying that? And I said, because there wouldn't be any babies. Because I can tell you. But anyway, so right after I start walking in this, boom, you know, I have a gallstone attack. And so they rushed me to the hospital, and it turns out, he says, you know, tomorrow morning I'll schedule you for surgery. And the doctor, he went to our church, and I said, well, I'd like you to hold up on that. He said, what do you mean? And I said, well, you know, I need to kind of talk to God about this. And you know, and that's kind of interesting. You know what doctor-patient
confidentiality.
I can't hardly say that. Anyway, you know, don't believe that, because the whole church knew within a few days, or within a week anyway, you know. But anyway, be it as it may, I didn't get it. And, you know, it passed finally. And then came another one, and another one, and another one. I was actually in India with Rick when we weren't staying in the same room in the hotel, but I'm out walking the streets of India. I can tell you, walking doesn't do any good. I've tried everything. And anyway, over a period of 2 years, I had 22 of those. And they like to rip me inside out, I can just tell you. And but there was something that I'm trying, you know, I'm trying to reach a place with God where, you know, I can understand these things. And anyway, the fight was on, and I finally one day I just said, 6 days, 6 months, 6 years, or 60 years, I'm still going to be here, and I'm not going to do it, you know. And I just became so determined, I became like steel, you know, because the tougher it got, the tougher I got. And I mean, I would literally spend 5 to 8 hours just rolling and tumbling in bed in agony with them, but I did it. And anyway, finally, one night, 4 men came that had all prayed for me before, but they all came. She called them, I wouldn't have called them. But I said, you know, if you don't want to heal me, we'll just do this for the rest of my life, because, and I've had them on airplanes, traveling, and just, you know, terrible things. And but I always managed. He always gave me just enough grace to get through it. And finally, after 22 of them, the Lord healed me, and I've never had them again. And that's been, I don't know, 30 years ago probably. So anyway, so I've had, I know what trials are. I know what the battle is. I know how, the powers of darkness just, they want to dominate us with fear and all. So anyway, so I've gone through these things, and I actually went for 10 years, and I never even had as much as an aspirin in 10 years. And no one in our family did. And God delivers, we were delivered through broken bones, we were delivered through every kind of imaginable thing, and yet the Lord always prevailed. And then one day, all of a sudden I'm doubling over in pain, and I don't know what I'm dealing with. I've come to find out I have colon cancer. So anyway, I actually started laughing, which sounds crazy when they told me I had it, because I said, oh, you got permission again, huh? And so we're going to go through another dance, and how long is this one going to last, So anyway, I made the decision again that I was going to fight it, and I was going to overcome it, and that's just who I am. So, but the powers of darkness, they know how to wear you down and wear you down, wear you down. And finally, it got so bad that I finally went and had surgery and took the tumor out. But I was learning, and I went and bought all these books on cancer at the health food store. That's where I figured I could get some truth, that didn't have an agenda, and so I began to read all the books and I began to learn. So anyway, in my fight with cancer, I began to learn, and when they did the surgery, it was real low down in my colon, and they had to take all my organs out, lay them on the table, and then they had to cut out a foot of my colon, and then they had to staple me back together, and anyway, so that's the story. And I always tell people all surgeries have side effects. If they don't tell you, expect them anyway, because there's going to be side effects that comes from that. And but anyway, but what the odd thing was, because I had been attempting all of these natural, from April to December, I'd been attempting all these natural ways to heal it, and the doctor said, he said, that tumor is going to be the size of a cantaloupe. He said, that tumor is going to be all in your blood vessels and your nerves and everything. And he said, all I can really do for you is give you some relief. But, it's too far gone now. And I said, all right. So anyway, he comes back and he says, it's kind of strange. He said, that tumor was about the size of a doorknob. He said, that is the size it's supposed to be, from all these months. And so I think what I was accomplishing was working. I just didn't, but anyway, people came from all over the country to pray for me. And I just want to say, sometimes God's plan is a little bit higher than our thoughts and the way we think. And so God was using it to teach me something, and I hope He's accomplished that. So anyway, but I want to. So anyway, he said you had some spots about the size of a pea on your liver, and he said that's the bad part. And he said I sent your lymph glands away, and they tested positive for. They took out like 2 or 3 lymph glands. So anyway, I think if I had to do it over again, knowing what I knew afterwards, that I probably would have kept going and not gone that way. But that's all up to everybody to decide. It's not my intent in any way, shape, or form to tell you what you should do. Matter of fact, every time somebody comes to me and says, you know, I made the decision I'm never going to go to a doctor again. I always kind of cringe and I go, you know, don't say that in front of Satan. Because I can tell you, he's going to get permission to come and test that one, you know. And it ends up with fire. And so anyway, I just kind of, you know, we just take it one day at a time, and we learn to trust God, and we try to learn from what he teaches us. Well, I want to teach you some about what the Lord has to say. The first thing that we want to talk about is God's Word is absolute truth. Now see, the religious system teaches that God's Word is absolute truth. The problem is they don't believe it. And so, you know, they will say that, I go, well, what about this scripture? And I'll read it, and they go, that doesn't mean that. Bishop so-and-so said that actually means, see, that's where, in other words, they really didn't believe what it said. They actually believe what the denomination teaches it says. That's the belief system that's out there. They don't believe it's absolute truth. They believe it's what the denomination that they have grown up in or they attend believes it is. Okay? Now, so we know it's absolute truth, and what we need God to do is to reveal to us what he is saying there. And that's going to be the absolute truth, what he shows us. And so see, I don't want you to believe anything because I say it. Matter of fact, you're probably going to be in danger if you believe something just because I say it. But I can tell you this, if you're a seeker after God, he will confirm it to you if it's true, and he will confirm the opposite if it's not. And that's what you have to grow to depend on. So, because I don't receive from any man. Matter of fact, I listen to people all the time, and I mean, some of it I agree with and some I don't, but I don't get it from them. I'm going to go back and start searching my Bible to see if God will confirm it. And when he confirms it, then it's mine. And I don't have to worry about it, whether it was true or not, from somebody else. See? So I don't receive from people, and somebody will say, doesn't that make sense? And I go, you know that doesn't have anything to do with it, if it makes sense or not, because I got to wait for God to confirm it to me. And so, Bill Green always had a saying, and I'm sure Rick has repeated. He would say, "I just put it on the shelf." He said, "I put it on the shelf until God confirms it." And that's what we have to do. But he had another one too. He goes. You got to spit out some sticks in order to find the truth. That was another one he always did. But anyway, he was an uneducated man and had been a steel rigger all his life. He actually was cleaning carpets when we met him. But God somehow raised up this guy, this uneducated man, to teach us, and he had more truth than any man that I had ever met at that time. So anyway, so we're going to look at, so in Psalms 149, verse 7, and you can either read it or turn to it in your Bible.
It's on the screen here too. So.
Oh, great. Yeah. That's in case I get lost. Verse 7, the law of the Lord is perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure. The next one, the precepts of the Lord are right. The next one, the commandment of the Lord is pure. See, I mean, the writer of Psalms knew that it's absolute truth. The judgments of the Lord are true. And look down at verse 11. By them your servant is warned. See that? By them your servant is warned. In keeping them, you notice a bold printed, keeping them there is great reward. Now, so it doesn't really matter how much you believe what's in the scripture. It's how much you keep them. And it's the keeping them that brings about the blessing. It's not, yeah, I agree with that. Well, that doesn't really make any difference whether you agree with that. The question is, are you going to obey? Are you going to keep the Word, because we've been warned that there's truth in these scriptures and they can bring harm to us. The laws of God can bring harm to us if we don't obey them and be in the safety and protection of God. So God cannot lie. There's just it is not possible, and He actually says that over and over. We'll look at Numbers 23, verse 19 says, "God is not a man that He should lie." Do you see that? So you say you believe the Scripture is absolute truth. Do we believe that or not? Can He lie to us or not? No, He can't lie to us. And when He says, if you do this, this, and this, you'll be healed, well, to me, that's absolute truth. And I was willing to stake my life on that. And so I believe that we can have confidence that God will do it. Now, how He's going to do it and what He's going to use to do it, that's another matter, and we'll discuss that. So, all right? Now, so let's go to Titus 1.
Hey, Dennis, we had a printing error there. It was not Psalm 149, it's Psalm 19. Psalm 19, we'll get that corrected. That's Psalm 19. Okay.
Sorry about that, folks. Let me get my little pen here. I didn't say I wasn't.
I'm glad you make mistakes like that, as I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We did it. Okay. Now, in Numbers 23:19, it says, "God is not a man that He should lie." Now, these are important things. You say, why do we have to read these? Because it's important. When you come up to a trial, I don't know what that trial is, but it's important that you be able to depend on God. You've got to know that He cannot lie. And, I tell people, I go, something's wrong here. People are dying. God's people are dying all around us. And they're dying of diseases that are curses that are on us. And these plagues that are on us, we're not supposed to be in that. So the question is, why are we in that? So we have to establish that God cannot lie. Okay? Titus 1. Okay? Titus 1, verse 1. Paul, a bondservant of God, an apostle of Jesus Christ, for the faith of those chosen of God and the knowledge of the truth, which is according to godliness, in the hope of eternal life, which God, who cannot lie, promised long ago. So we established in the Old Testament and we established in the New Testament that He cannot lie. So when He makes a commitment, if you do this and this, He said, if you obey me, He said, if you abide in me and my word abides in you, ask whatever you want. It'll be given to you. You know what? He can't lie about that. He can't. If He does, it's over. He's no longer God. Because that's who God is. It's absolute truth. He said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. And it's impossible for Him to lie. All right? Okay, Hebrews 6:17. Hebrews 6:17 says, in the same way, God, desiring even more to show to the heirs of the promise the unchangeableness of His purpose, interposed with an oath, so that by two unchangeable things in which it is, notice these words, impossible for God to lie. So our intent here is to establish that God cannot lie. Do you believe that?
Yes, sir.
It's important, because if we don't believe that, how do you know He's going to forgive you when you get there? If you think He might lie about things, And so, all right. Now I'm going to read Psalms 103. This is such an important scripture. So he says, Psalms 103, verse 1, bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget none of his benefits. You know, I've had this read to me my entire Christian life.
Yeah.
I'm talking about ever since I was a little boy. But you know, they always leave part of it out. Who pardons all your iniquities, who heals all your diseases. Do you believe God can lie to you about that? He can't. So we know it's not on his end that's the problem.
Right.
We know that. So it has to be on our end. There has to be something. And so, you know, we had a dear friend up in Montana, you know, a very, very godly man. And he taught around the country and all. And he came down with this strange disease. And it was a blood disease. I'm going to say something like leukemia, but it was very, very unusual, very rare. And he was in his 60s, and he still could bench press like 350 pounds. I mean, he was that kind of a powerhouse, you know, just huge arms and worked out all the time. And so, I mean, he was strong physically, he was strong spiritually, and I never got to see him after, because he went away for tests, and I, you know, was never in our area we were in. But he passed away, and I said, you know, something's wrong. And see, that's the way I look at things. I go, something's wrong. You know, I don't know what was wrong, but I know something's wrong. Because, see, you know, he says, you're not even going to strike your foot against a stone. He says, no evil will befall you. No plague will come near your tent. And I said, wait a minute, what is going on? Why are we being plagued from every angle? You know, if you line up the world and take all the averages, and then you line up God's people and take all the averages, it's exactly the same. There is no difference. There's not, you say, well, God's people live, you know, 20 years longer. Nope. God's people have less disease. Nope. God's people have less organ failures. Nope. God's people have less joints that they have to have replaced. Nope. You know, it's exactly the same. And so you know what I say? Something's wrong. You know, I'm not that stupid. I know what God says. I mean, I know you might want to write a book or even a volume explaining that doesn't mean that. And then go find all the scriptures that you could use to say that doesn't mean that. But you know what that means? It means, I mean, I know this is complicated, but he heals all your diseases. That's what it says. So the question is, are we going to hold God to his word, or are we going to excuse it away? So anyway, that's just me. Okay, so we got some questions we have to ask ourselves. Where does sickness come from? God or Satan or both? Well, we know we got Job, and God says, have you seen my servant Job? And he said, yeah, I sure have. You got his path bathed like butter, you know. I mean, I can't touch him, you know. So God gave permission. Now, it's kind of interesting. God didn't say, go put sore boils all over Job, did he? He just lifted the hedge. Our hedge is lifted, folks. I mean, that's what's going on, is our hedge is lifted. And we have to, you know, is it because God's bragging so much about us? Maybe in some cases, but not in mine. And so when our hedge gets lifted, we no longer have protection, and Satan has free reign. So I'm going to make some statements to you here, and you know, you can kind of do what you want with them, but really, there's no absolutes when it comes to these things. So, you know, it doesn't mean that I'm right, you're wrong, it doesn't mean you're wrong and I'm right. But I'm going to say this, that most sickness is ministered by Satan and the powers of darkness. Most. Now, I can't say to you 100% is, that's just not possible. But I can just tell you, most is ministered, and we'll just leave it at most, okay? Or the majority, we'll say, okay? Now, most sickness is okayed by God. In other words, He lifted the hedge. He took the hedge away, the protection away, which He promised would be there, by the way. And Job knew it was there. I know it's there. Or I know it's supposed to be there. But when sickness comes, the hedge went down. So we have to ask ourselves, why is the hedge down? Is it because he's bragging about it? Or is it because we brought it down? Because I can tell you this, you can bring the hedge down, okay? Now, let me give you an example. Let's say that, let's say someone was talking behind your back and said some very evil things about you and caused all kinds of tribulation in your life by speaking falsehoods about you. And you got angry and went and told them to the face. My mother used to say to me, Dennis, please don't go to bed angry. And I go, why not? You know, I was kind of angry. And she said, I don't know, but I just know you should never go to bed angry. Now, my mother was giving me a warning, see, and I can just tell you that, let me give you my mother's warning, don't go to bed angry. You say, but you don't know what they did to me. Yeah, I do, because I've had it all done. But I can just tell you, don't go to bed angry. I think the hedge can come down. Second, always forgive. You say, but you don't understand what they did to me. I'm going to tell you, always forgive. It doesn't matter what they did. And you say, well, I'll forgive, but I won't forget. You better not have that attitude, because the hedge will come down. And you'll go, why am I getting all this sickness coming upon me? You know, hey, I've had it on me my whole life, so I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm just saying to you, you know, do not let anger and wrath remain in you, or it will. And so when I would pray over people with cancer over the years, I always led them in prayer. I remember this one lady, she was dying of cancer, and I was praying for her, and she wasn't very old. And I'm praying for her, and I stopped and I said, have you been divorced? And she said, yes. And I said, do you have any bitterness towards your ex-husband? She goes, oh, I sure do. And I said, ma'am, if we want to see you healed, you can't keep that. She goes, well, you don't know what he did to me. And I said, ma'am, I don't have time to teach you this whole Bible, but that's what this whole Bible is about. And if you keep that, I'm not going to be able to see you healed, and I want to see you healed. And anyway, I'm just telling you, you know, I can talk in general, and I can talk about, you know, on the camera, because it's so hard to say it to somebody specifically, because they won't receive it. You know, well, you just don't understand. You know, I had a guy one day. He came over at my house, and he was a neighbor, a couple doors down. And people who know me know that I love heavy equipment. You know, I've owned a lot of heavy equipment. And you know what an excavator is? It's a backhoe on tracks. You know, well, I've owned 5 of them, so that'll tell you that I like heavy equipment. But anyway, that's my favorite piece of equipment. Anyway, I had a John Deere excavator. I paid $22,000 for it, and I used it to, you know, take clear woods and dig out old stumps and put in all my water lines, sewer lines and everything. And anyway, this guy comes over and wants to borrow it. And that's a tough thing, but anyway, I finally, because he knew how to operate them, and I thought, well, I'll go to him. I never got it back, ever. I actually went over there one day and said, hey, you know, my brother was with me, and I said, you know, I'd like to get my excavator back, you know. And he actually jumps on me and started beating me up. And I think he was high on something, seemed to be anyway. And anyway, a guy worked for me, pulls a baseball bat out from behind his seat, and he goes, I'll go get your excavator. I go, nope, we're not going to handle it that way. You know, it's up to God. He still got it, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I'm just saying, this is not an easy thing to walk in, this gospel. And I'm not telling you anything that you should do. That's God's job. You know, being God is his job. Being Dennis is my job, not being God. So I'm not telling you how to handle it. But anyway, I've had some things that I could be real angry about, but you know, I just forgave him and went on. And I've had to do that with a lot of things. So anyway, and a lot of people. Okay, so where does sickness come from? First of all, I believe that God allows it by lowering the hedge. And second, I believe Satan's the one that delivers it, or I should say his little minions, you know, they deliver it. And, you know, we're going to look at this lady was bent double for 18 years, and it says by a spirit, you know, and so. Now, so then this question comes up. Can a Christian have a demon? You know, we really ought to have a national debate among Christians as to whether a Christian can have demons. You know, I don't know if any of you ever heard of Peter Lord, but he was a pastor and an evangelist down in Florida. And he died recently. He was 90-some years old. He just died recently. And they asked him, they said, do you think a Christian can have a demon? Because there was this big debate about it. He goes, I think a Christian can have anything they want. You know, so I guess the answer to your question, if you say, can a Christian have a demon, is they can have anything they want. You know, if you want it bad enough, you'll get it. You know, all right. So anyway. I don't get in that debate. I don't get in any of them because I'm just focusing on what God has to say. So the question is, did God promise to heal our diseases? Did he promise to remove this problem? And so I have to ask, did Job get healed? I kind of think he did, didn't he? Yeah. Well, and then understand. Yeah, you know, God allowed a trial and a test to come into his life. And you know what? I think it took him to a new level. And I think that's what's intended in many cases in these trials, is to take us to a new level with God. But no advice from me in your life. I got enough trouble with my own. So did God promise to heal our diseases? In the end, after the purpose of the sickness is accomplished, are God's people healed? So, you know, I think after a lifetime of pursuing this, because it's been well over 35 years, I would say that if you're in full pursuit of God, which is what he's after, by the way, you must have a passion for him if you want all of his benefits, like we saw there in what was it, Psalms?
Yeah, 103 there, Psalm 103.
Yeah, forget none of his benefits, he says, you know. And so if we want all of his benefits, you got to be in full pursuit. This is not somebody who attends sermonettes for Christianettes. You know, you don't get all of God's promises just because you attend on Sunday. You get his promises because you love him and you adore him and you pursue him with all your heart. Okay? Now, so I want to tell you one more little scripture. How are we doing on
Good, we can maybe take a short break here in about 5 minutes or so.
Okay, I want to tell you a little story, and I appreciate my daughter's willingness to let me tell this because it helps so many people. But one time I went to Milt Green and I said, Milt, my daughter is having a problem wetting the bed, and I just wanted to talk to you about this. Do you think there's anything there? He goes, yeah, it's a demon. Just cast it out. Don't worry about it. That's the way he answered me. I'm like, you know, and see, that's the way he thought. Now, he would never say that in a big meeting, but that's the way he talked to me because we were one-on-one discussing stuff, and I said, oh. He said, so anyway, so I went home. And I said, well, you know, I'm gonna see her healed, you know. And so anyway, I prayed over 6 days in a row, nothing. And so I said, well, guess it wasn't. Guess that was wrong, you know. So anyway, months go by, and anyway, we're traveling through Dallas, and I called to say hi to Milt. He lived in North Dallas at that time, and I said, we're just passing through, thought maybe we'd have a meal with you. He goes, brother, come over here and spend the night, you know. I said, no, Milt, we've got our RV, and brother, come over here and spend the night. You know, I mean, there's no telling it. So anyway, we come over, and so anyway, my wife said, you know, to Joyce, we're going to need a plastic for the bed, because we had one in the RV, and Milt heard that, and he turned to me, and this is what he said, is that demon still bothering your daughter? Is that demon still bothering your daughter? Now, you talk about a man that knew. He knew. He goes, you go tell that thing to leave your daughter alone, and don't you ever stop until it's gone. Now, okay. So anyway, I remember I told God, I said, 6 days, 6 months, 6 years, I won't ever quit. And you know what? It was gone. It never had it again. As soon as I came back with that determination, it was gone. And she never had it again.
Wow.
See, you begin to learn these things, you know, and somebody goes, well, you know, my opinion on that is, I go, listen, mister, people who have people who have experience are not at the mercy of people who have an opinion.
Amen. Amen, brother. That's right.
You can have all the opinions you want, but don't make me abide by your opinions, because there's certain things I've learned. I've been at this for my whole life, and I mean, you know, over 35 years, and so you tell me, well, no, that's not what that is, and it was. That's what it was. It was torment.
Yeah.
They love to torment you. And as long as they can intimidate you and get you to believe that it's not them, they got free reins. And so anyway, I just want to say to you, so we got this dilemma. So if this cancer is brought by a spirit, well, let's go to the back, you know. We got this lady bent double, okay, in the Bible. We're going to read it here in a little bit. And she's got a spirit that's causing it. So I do back surgery, and I correct the back. Did I cut the spirit out too? No, I didn't cut the spirit out, see. So he just moves to the next place. You know, God did not say, go attack their back. He doesn't work that way, and not according to this Bible. But he lowers the heads, and that's where they chose to come. And so I just want to say, you know, we can discuss all of the ways of being healed, but if we don't deal with the source, well, we're going to have to fight another day. And so anyway, you can just keep cutting out organs and cutting out organs, and replacing joints and replacing joints, but ultimately, if you want to really solve this, you're going to have to deal with the spiritual, because the spiritual is really the truth of the matter. So, well, I gave you a few heavy things, didn't I? It'll make your mind swirl for a while, but as best I can, I've told you the exact truth of what I know to be. And the powers of darkness, I think, if you really knew the relationship we have with God, I mean, remember in Job it says, in the day all the, what does it say, Rick? They all came before the Lord?
Yes, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And there's Satan.
Satan's among them. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, because, you know, I'm gonna reach out and give you something. You know, I have what I use what I call shocker statements, and that's what I refer to them as. And so, in other words, I'll shock you with a statement, and that gets your attention, and then I will show it to you in the Word. And I'm gonna use a shocker statement here. Satan and his angels, or demons, are a pretty handy tool. And they are used to grow you into the image and likeness of God. Because they will come to you through people that will offend you. They will speak all kinds of evil against you falsely. And they'll do everything they can do to destroy you. And God's using them all the time. Because that's their nature, see? And so that nature's pretty handy, because God's using it for you to overcome them. And that allows you to be transformed into the image and likeness of God. And so they're pretty handy tools for God. And he uses them. And it's really funny how in their attempts to destroy you, which is their nature, they can't do anything other than their nature. In their attempts to destroy you, God is using it all for your glory and his glory. And he can transform you into, in his mind, the perfect vessel, and which is the fullness of God. And so that's what he uses them for. And so he's got all these boundaries or these laws, and we step outside of them, and they attack us, and they're using it because they love to attack you. They love to destroy your organs. They love to destroy your mind. They love to destroy your body, especially if you profess to walk with God and intend to walk with God. They love it. But God, he's just kind of chuckling because he's using it to teach you to overcome and how to become his likeness and his image. So anyway, it's, you know, it isn't a matter whether a Christian can have a demon or not. It's a matter of, can they torment you? Oh yeah, they definitely can. So, all right, so we're going to keep going. You know, sometimes we have to wait also. You know, sometimes we see something, God confirms it to us, and we stand, and then we have to stand more, and we have to stand more, and we have to endure, and we have to endure to the end, and we finally, he says, we'll get what's been promised, right? That's what he says. Okay? I don't have time to go read all these to you, but that's the way it is. So, in Deuteronomy 7, verse 12, it says, then it will come about, because you listen to these judgments, and, now this is very important. Keep and do them. It didn't say believe them. It didn't say agree with them. It says to keep and do them, okay? That the Lord your God will keep with you his covenant. So you say, well, now, if you study covenant, you'll find out that healing is a covenant agreement that God has made with you. So when you made covenant with him, okay, then he made covenant with you. Now the question is, does he have to keep that commitment? That's a good question. I can just tell you, he has to keep that commitment. Or he is no longer God. He has to keep that covenant. So the question is, how do we position ourselves and get in such a place that we can receive the benefits of that covenant? And, you know, in other words, we're going to have to move over a little bit. We're going to have to change some things in order to do that. You know, in order to get forgiven, do you have to change some things? Well, yeah, you know, that's the covenant, you know. I mean, just because he died for the sins of the world, does that automatically make us in covenant with God? No, we have to make covenant with God to get what was promised when he died for our sins. And it's the same way with healing. Is we have to move over, and we have to get in accordance with his word before we can get what's been promised, okay? So, anyway, look at verse 15. The Lord will remove from you all sickness. Now, isn't that amazing? I mean, those people back in that day, they had it pretty good, because God removed all of their sickness. But actually, he didn't, did he? Because he only did it when they got in line with the covenant. See, it's the same way today. But see, because you've been taught religion, religion says, well, you know, God doesn't do that anymore, and now he only uses doctors, and, you know, it goes on and on. But the fact of it is, our covenant, it says in Hebrews, is a better covenant, and it has better promises. Well, this promise that the Lord will remove all sickness, we have even a better one than that. Now, it didn't get much better, but that's pretty good, okay? To know that we got a better covenant and we have better promises. And he will not put it on you any of the harmful diseases of Egypt. You know, I have hearing aids here because I lost 75% of the hearing in this ear, and I've got about 75% in this ear. So 25, 75. Without these hearing aids, I can't even hold a conversation. That's the truth of it, you know. And I'm always seeking God to know, now, how do I deal with this? You know, what are you trying to teach me here? You know what? Those are clear except for the bifocals. Those are clear. And I had cataracts removed, and I have 20/20, actually 20/15 with now. In other words, I would be blind. My grandmother was blind with cataracts, and I only knew her as my great-grandmother, actually. I only knew her blind. And anyway, so, you know, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me. You know, I'm diabetic. Now, how in the world does that happen when the cells in my body won't assimilate the sugars or the insulin that's supposed to, you know? And I know a whole lot about it because I've read everything that can be read. But I'm just telling you, I'm not here looking down on you and condemning you. I'm here talking about me, okay? So, but these are the things that, you know, when I say something's wrong, and I want to know what's wrong, I don't want to know what some Dr. So-and-so PhD says about it. I want to know what God has to say about it. Yeah. And anytime something comes in my life, and I know I'm being tormented, I know I'm being persecuted by the powers of darkness, I want to know why. Okay? Now, he says in Exodus, so he says, let me finish that. Verse 15 of Deuteronomy 7 says, the Lord will remove from you all sickness, and he will not put on you any of the harmful diseases of Egypt, which you have known. Notice that. Before they came out, they knew them. They had experienced them. But now they're under God's care. The question is, are we under God's care or not? That's the question. So, I mean, if we got one foot in the world and one foot with God, we're probably going to be just like they were in Egypt. You know, we knew them. We knew those diseases, those curses were on us. But he will lay them on all who hate you. Do you know these diseases were never intended for God's people? They're for those that hate you. Okay? That's what they're for. They're not supposed to be on us. But when we get over in their category, they're able to get to us. Or if for some reason God brings the hedge down. Okay? Exodus 15:26. Exodus 15:26. And he said, if you will give earnest heed to the voice of the Lord your God, and do what is right. Mark that, do what is right. That is so important. Because what that means is obey the gospel. That's what that means. And I can show you that in the New Testament. You know, that it says those exact same words, okay? Do what is right in his sight, not in your sight, but in his sight. And give ear to his commandments and keep all his statutes. I will put none of the diseases. You know what none of the diseases means? I mean, I know we need a book, a big thick one that would explain that to us. It means none of the diseases. But you know, do I feel like at times I have all of the diseases? You know? I mean, he promised us none on you, which I put on the Egyptians, for I, the Lord, am your healer. See, back in that day, he was the healer, you know. Okay, so now the question is, if God comes along and heals you, which I believe he wants to do, he wants to do it. And what did it change? We can see in the Bible where there was people that asked for more years and got it, which was Asa, right?
Hezekiah.
Yeah, Hezekiah. And Hezekiah, that's right. And he asked for more years, and it didn't change him. And I'm going to tell you, if God heals you, he wants to use you. He wants you to become a vessel for him. And so if it doesn't change anything, I would just say that we're probably in more danger, because it's intended to accomplish something for us. Okay, Proverbs 3, verse 7. I'll just skim a few of these. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. Proverbs 3:7. It will be healing to your body and refreshments to your bones. You see, to be wise in your own eyes is going to be destruction to your body. And, I certainly would never use his name, but there was a guy I went to meet with one time, and I was buying a bunch of restaurants, and he was regarded as one of the strongest Christians in the church I went to, which was in Phoenix. And we sat down, and for the first hour over lunch, he told me how great he was. Now, he was one of the strongest Christians at this church I went to in Phoenix. And some would know his name, so I wouldn't want to use it, but I'm just saying. And I finally, I said, I don't want to offend you, but I would never go in business with you. He said, why not? I've got the money to the rest. I said, because all you talked about is solid hours, how great you are. And I can't even imagine being in a business with a person that thinks that you're nothing and they're something, And that's not a partnership, And I'm just saying, God's people have a lot of funny ideas about the truth, and I actually came to the place where I almost wouldn't hire Christians, and I came to the place where I almost wouldn't go in business with Christians, because it was, like Christian in name only, because they take advantage of me, they do, I just said, I mean, there's something wrong here, because, and I didn't realize it at the time, this was before God opened my eyes to see that, we're living a religion. So anyway, I'll tell you again, and I did at the message that I did on a week ago Sunday, is the religious system is not God's system. The religious system is not God's system. It's Satan's system. And he controls it. Now, I didn't say that church over there or that pastor over there. That's not my part. I can say the system, the religious system, is Satan's system. Now, we can see that there's that Paul said there's another Jesus and there's another gospel. He outright says that. And the other Jesus he's really the same Jesus. I mean, they believe he died on the cross. Okay, they believe he was born of a virgin. They believe he lived a sinless life. They believe he died on the cross. They believe that he rose from the dead. And you say, well, that's true. Yeah, it's true, but he said, but if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. And they don't even believe his commandments even need to be kept. Matter of fact, they're a part of nothing that is taught. You can spend your life in church and never hear them ever tell you that you should obey the teachings of Jesus, because it's just, now you say, well, I heard that. Great. I'm glad somebody is, because I can just tell you, I grew up in church and that was never taught. But I can tell you, he said, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. He said, the one that says he loves me and doesn't keep his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. Is that bold? That's his opinion on the matter, see? And so, anyway, the commandments of Jesus is really what tells whether we have the right Jesus or not, because that's the gospel according to Jesus, and it tells whether we're keeping them or not. Whether we're keeping them or not tells us whether we have the right Jesus and whether we have the right gospel. Now, so the other Jesus. Now, I'm gonna tell you. Here comes one of my shock statements. The Antichrist. The Antichrist teaches the other Jesus. Now, the Antichrist teaches that Jesus was born of a virgin. He lived a sinless life. He died on the cross. He rose from the dead, just like we do. You just don't have to obey him, because you already have your salvation. So you prayed a prayer and asked Jesus into your heart, so now you have your salvation, and none of that really matters. What Jesus taught doesn't matter, because I'm already got my salvation. You see the deception there, how it comes along and it steals us from the truth, and we no longer ascend into the fullness of God through the obedience to his teachings and his life forming in us or being shaped in us. We don't do that anymore because there's no need to, because we're already going to heaven. And that's the Antichrist. So what do we got out here? We got Satan's gospel being preached all over the whole world, and we're exporting it to every country in the world. And people are slipping away, thinking that they've got heaven, and they've never even taken. I've actually had people come up and go, I just realized I've never even taken one step since I, quote unquote, got saved. I never even took a step. When I hear about some entertainer or singer or somebody famous accepts the Lord, I just go, oh boy, here we go again. Because Satan's going to destroy them, because they don't have the hedge around them. They don't have the protection because they're not obedient to the gospel. So anyway, first thing we do is we become obedient to the gospel. We live the gospel. And then the Spirit of God can go to work and in us and begin to form His life in us so that we are living apostles. And we are Jesus Christ on the earth today in living form. And I want to tell you, that is the second coming of Jesus Christ. There's a whole lot more that I could go into, but I can't do that. You know, His coming again is in you, being formed in you, being shaped in you. You know, remember Paul said to the Galatians, I'm again, how do you say it?
Labor again.
I'm laboring again until Christ is formed in you. Why did he say that? Because they weren't going the right way in Galatians, you know. So, okay, so now, Proverbs 4:20. So it says, give attention to my words. See, that's the word of God. That's what it's talking about. Incline your ear to my sayings. Do not let them depart from your sight. Keep them in the midst of your heart, for they are life to those that find them. What is life? His words, His commandments, His teaching. And Jesus said they're all summed up in these two things. That love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. You know, Paul even stepped a step further. He said, it's all summed up in one word. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. I'll tell you a little secret. The way you love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength is by loving your neighbor as yourself. That's how you do it. You say, Lord, I love you. He goes, go show me. You know, but you don't understand, Lord, I love you. And he says, then go show me. Go keep and do my commandments. If you love me, you'll keep my commandments. Go do it. And go walk in it. And I'll help you. I'll be there with you all the way. And so that is the true gospel. Okay? So anyway, so they're life to those that find them and health to their whole body. See, the health to our whole body is His word, His teachings, His life being formed in us. And you know what? When you abide in Him and He abides in you, you can ask for anything you want and get it. See, that is the key to healing, to me, you know. I mean, and so that's, you know, I've been on this 35 years of pursuit of this gospel. Back when I first saw it, I knew I was seeing something, but I didn't understand it. And so I began to teach it. The more I would teach it, the more God would show me. And the more I'd teach it, the more God would show me. And after 35 years, it's clear to me now. I don't have any struggle now with understanding what the true gospel is. The story of Jesus is what's taught by the religious system as the gospel. Just, you know, believe in Jesus. Believe that He, born of a virgin, lived a sinless life, died on the cross, rose again. If you believe that, you got it. But the true gospel is what He taught, what He preached. You know, He said, bless those that curse you. Pray for those that mistreat you. Whoever strikes you on the cheek, offer on the other. And it actually says in 1 Corinthians 13, he says, love, that means the gospel, by the way. In other words, walking in love is walking in the gospel. He says, love never takes into account a wrong suffered. Love never takes into account a wrong suffered. Love never takes into account a wrong suffered. If you take into account a wrong suffered, you are not walking in love, therefore you're not abiding in His gospel. That's the truth. And I don't do anything other than come to tell you the truth. I mean, I can say nice things and everybody won't, you know, come against me, but I have to tell you the truth. You know, I actually say it this way. If someone can greatly offend you and they cannot tell if you even noticed you're close. If someone greatly offends you, and they cannot tell if you even noticed, you're real close. That's what God's showing me. Okay. So we know, I don't need to read it, but that next one, 2 Timothy 2:1, it says, the verse 13, the last one, if we are faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny himself. See, he can't deny himself. He's the healer. He cannot deny that. He must fulfill his commitment according to the covenant. Okay? Now, let's go to 2 Corinthians 12. This is Paul. This is what he was faced with. Because of the surpassing, this is 12:7. 2 Corinthians 12:7. But there's several things I want to point out here. Because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, for this reason, now I want you to mark this, to keep me from exalting myself. Now, is exalting ourselves a sin? Yeah, it is. And did Paul have a problem with that? Yeah, he did. Yeah. I have some too, you know. I remember one time, and I may have mentioned this before in the last meeting, week ago Sunday. One time I actually said, just in my thoughts, I said, I'm doing pretty good at this. I might be up to where Bill is one day. How? I never got anything, a month went by, and I totally wasted my time in that Bible. I never got one thing. And I thought it was going to go on forever. Just that one little thought that I agreed with, and God shut it down. He said, we're not going there, Now, you have to be careful. God is very sensitive. And if you begin to think that you're somebody, you begin to think that, I'm getting pretty good at this teaching thing, it's over. It's over. He shuts you down. Now you go on teaching and you'll think you're doing great, but he's gone. And he has nothing to do with it. And he won't have anything to do with it until you come back and repent and humble yourself and be meek and lowly, because that's the only ones he works with. And you think, man, I'm going to study and I'm going to be sharp. He hides these things from the wise and intelligent. So, where that puts me, if I've got anything. I'm not too wise and not too intelligent. But I just tell you that he hides these things from the wise. And see, people who have a lot of intelligence struggle with this gospel. Because, it says that the gospel is say it right, is, you know why he's using me. But it says that it's foolishness to the Greek. And that's really to the lost people out there. It's foolishness to them. The gospel is. The true gospel is foolishness. Because it's saying that if you humble yourself and be meek and lowly and contrite, that God will come forth in his fullness in you. They go, that's nonsense, foolishness. And it says to the Jew, it's a stumbling block. Now, what does that mean? Well, the Jew says, I'm already a child of God.
Right.
I'm circumcised for goodness sakes. I've already got it. Why in the world would I need that gospel? To say that to go to heaven, I gotta walk in that gospel. See, it's a stumbling block to them. And so I'm just saying, people think you're nuts. Even in church, you start talking about that you got to obey the commands of Jesus. You go, what for? You don't really expect somebody to live like that, do you? He did, you know, that I know. Because he said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments, you know. And so, anyway, so to keep him from exalting himself, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh. Now look at this. A messenger of Satan. A messenger of Satan. Isn't that interesting? Well, Satan has messengers. To torment me. We've been talking about some torment today. And, you know, I've got plenty of torment, I can tell you. And I know who it comes from, too. That's a good thing to know. And why, Paul? To keep me from exalting myself. He even said it again. You know how humbling that had to be for a guy like Paul to tell you that? You know, that I got this demon that is tormenting me because I have a problem exalting myself. That's the Dennis translation. All right? Concerning this, he said, I was concerned. I implored the Lord 3 times that it might leave me. Because I went to the Lord 3 times. And, you know, I would say normally once was enough. But after 3 times it was still there. And he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for power is perfected in weakness. There is a big one. And when I had these gallstones and I was suffering something awful, and that's the scripture the Lord gave me. He says, power is perfected in weakness. In other words, he will bring you down into weakness so that he can manifest his power in your life. He can accomplish things through it. So we have the reason of the hedge being brought down. We have the reason that we have trouble exalting ourselves, and God was perfecting his power through that weakness, that torment that Paul was using. You say, well, man, that's not right. Yeah, that's probably true, but God's a little wiser than we are. And, you know, I would say I've had a number of those thorns that has humbled me and broke me. And now that can come, we're not just talking about health here. We're talking about in all areas of your life. And God can break you financially. He can break you. Every friend you have can turn on you. I mean, you've all experienced many different things. God uses these things to weaken us so that we're crying out to him and dependent on him, and then he can perfect us through these weaknesses. So he says, I am well content with, now he's going to tell you some of these thorns, okay? Weaknesses, insults, distresses, persecutions, and difficulties for Christ's sake. For when I'm weak, then I'm strong. And one of them he didn't mention there, but you know, I see it all over in his writings, is the chains. You imagine a guy of Paul's stature, that he's sitting there in a prison cell on the floor in chains, you know, for preaching the gospel. You would think he'd said, God, what in the world is wrong with you? What? I'm out here preaching your gospel and you got me in chains. He said, but I'm well content with these thorns in the flesh, these thorns in my life, these insults, all of these things, these persecutions, these difficulties, these distresses, these insults, all these things they're used for your good and your glory. And so, anyway, I just want to say there's another one too, you know. So they throw these things up, the religious system throws these things up and says, well, yeah, what do you say about this? And Paul had, and so, but the fact of it is, Paul knew exactly what, and I'll tell you, I've had a lot of change in my life. And, many of you know, we lost a son, a 22-year-old, and his wife. They'd been married a month, and they died in a car accident. Both of them died. And we've had a lot of change. We've had a lot of thorns. And, but we're still here. We still trust God. We still believe God uses all things for good. And that's where we have to remain. Now, I wanted to point out that Jacob, let's see, no, I got another scripture first, I'm sorry. 2 Peter 2. 2 Peter 2 says, false prophets also arose among the people, just as there will also be false teachers among you, who will secretly introduce destructive heresies. You know what a destructive heresy is? It's something that doesn't cause you to turn to God for your answer. It's destructive because you miss the point of what God's doing. And these destructive heresies are everywhere. Even denying the master who bought them. And with that, denying the master, I've actually got a thing that I teach. The term Jesus Christ in itself is a very misread term, because in this Bible, the term Jesus, how about like, put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh. Now, put on it? I mean, how? But see, everybody can accept that one and go, well, yeah, that's talking about put on your belief in Him, or that's probably how they would say it. No, that means put His life on you. In other words, walk His life, live His life, and make no provision for your own nature is what it's saying. But see, I'm saying the term Jesus Christ, well, when it says here even denying the master, you say, well, that bought them. It doesn't mean they're saying, I don't believe in Jesus. They're not talking about that. Denying the master means to deny Him coming forth in you, being fulfilled in you. That's denying the master. See, and so the word master, it's talking about His life. It's not talking about the person, the historical figure. Okay, so there's many places in this Bible that's like that, and once you understand it, I remember a guy came to visit me one time. He's one of the dearest brothers I've ever known, and it really has eyes to see and ears to hear. But he came to visit me when him and his wife came to visit, and so I'm talking to him, and I said, this Bible is types and shadows. I mean, that's what this Bible is. It's a historical story, but it was written for a spiritual purpose. And I might ought to read something here. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 10. This is really important. See, I will say to you a shock statement like that this Bible is parables. Matter of fact, I did a study one time, parables, proverbs, mysteries, dark sayings. Anyway, there's a whole list of them all over this Bible, and they all basically spiritually mean the same thing. And so did the children of Israel come out of Israel? Absolutely. It's a historical fact. Okay? But his recording it was for whom? What's it say? Us. Okay, we're going to see it here. Okay, 1 Corinthians 10. Let's see. Verse 11. It says, now these things happened. Well, he just listed all of them. No, let's read verse 6 first. Verse 6. Now he just says all these things, and he says, now these things happen as examples for us. What? How can you say that the children of Israel, coming out of Israel, and all they went through in the wilderness happened as examples for us? Well, that's what God says. You know, he knew that it was a parable, it was a picture of, just because it's a parable doesn't mean it isn't true. It means that God is teaching us something through it, you know, in the Spirit, okay? Now these things happen, examples for us, that we should not crave evil things as they also craved. Now, one of the biggest deceptions that's on us today is that, you know, because we're quote-unquote saved, now the curse is no longer on us. I remember what Peter Lord said, you know, a Christian can have anything they want. Well, I can just tell you they're all over us. And they're not supposed to be, you know, but because of our walk and our lack of obedience, why we're having problems with them. Okay? Verse 11. Now these things happened to them as an example, that they were what? Written for our instruction? Oh, isn't that interesting? Now, Paul, he said they were written for our instruction under the influence of the Holy Spirit. He said it. So when I say that what happened in Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy was a parable, well, that's what it was, because it was written for our instruction. These things happened and they were written for our instructions because God was preparing the way for a people that were going to come, which is supposed to be us. Okay? All right, so I wanted to point that out to you. But I mean, he warns you in there. Why would he warn you not to grumble and warn you not to crave evil things? And you know, why would he warn you of all that if there isn't any curse today? If there isn't any, well, obviously there is. But see, that's part of this religious system of these destructive heresies. When he says, no, there's no such thing as a curse today. You know, I can show you right in the Bible, so they find a scripture that they think backs up their teaching that's been passed down for hundreds of years, and they're all over us. You know, the plague is all over us. Everything that the world has, we have. Now, we're supposed to be a peculiar people, but yet we have everything that the world has at the exact same percentage now. You know, and I say, you know, something's wrong, and people just jump all over it. You know, how can you say that? You know, I mean, God's working in our midst, and we're having such a something is wrong. I'm not that stupid that I look here and he said, I heal all your diseases, and I look and we're covered in diseases. So I just want to say, my goal is to find out what's wrong. Okay? And in the meantime, there's a scripture, you know, Timothy, you say, well, what do we do? You know, you just gave us a scenario. Get over here. I was going to read you the scripture about take a little wine for your stomach. Where's that?
Oh, yeah, 2 Timothy.
I was looking at 1 Timothy, that's my clue.
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe it's 1 Timothy 5. 1 Timothy 5, verse 23.
5:23, okay. Now, in verse 22, he says, this is 1 Timothy 5:22. Do not lay hands upon anyone too hastily, and thus share responsibility for the sins of others. Now, you know what that's saying? Warning, 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 warning. It's warning us, be careful when you appoint people, lay hands on people too hastily, because it says, keep yourself free from sin. Now, you may not lay hands on somebody too hastily. I could be responsible for their sin. Yeah, that's what God said. No longer drink water exclusively, but use a little wine for the sake of your stomach and your, notice, frequent ailments. They say, well, look at Timothy, he had frequent ailments. Well, it tells right there why he had frequent ailments, because he was stepping outside the hedge, and the hedge wasn't protecting him like it was supposed to, see? So there's reasons why God will lower this hedge. But see, what was it supposed to do? It's supposed to turn him back and repent so that the hedge could come back up again, you know? So it says, the sins of some men are quite evident, going before them to judgment. For others, their sins follow after. So anyway, now, so what he's saying, so say, you know, what do we do now? So I said, take a little wine for your stomach. You know?
Here.
Do the best. Do the best. That commercial was not required. Okay, but you know, God is trying to teach us something there. He's saying, it's going to take a little bit of time to get through this, you know. Just like Paul, you know, when he was had this thorn in the flesh, whatever it is, doesn't matter what it was, because he had many of them, because he had a whole list of them there. And so you do the best you can to walk and trust God, and you know, taking a little something to get you past it until God accomplishes what he wants to accomplish. Okay? Now, there was a scripture that I added. Can you go back to it? It isn't on my list.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Luke 10? I mean, Luke
We're
12.
going to look at Luke 12:10. Okay, in verse 10, it says, let's see, have I got that right?
Yep, everyone who speaks a word. Oh, nope. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 13 is the story of the woman bent double. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Okay, I got a wrong reference there. Sorry about that. And it's, yeah, it starts at verse 10. So this is actually Luke 13:10.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'll probably get it to you wrong. Okay, here we go. And he was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath. And behold, there was a woman who for 18 years, now notice this, had a sickness caused by a spirit. So the first thing we got to stop and ask is it possible to have a sickness caused by a spirit? Yeah, it is, okay? We've accomplished that part, okay? And she was bent double and could not straighten up at all. Now, you know, you wouldn't think of bent double. You know, that woman that I prayed for in Africa, actually the other lady prayed for, I didn't touch her, but she was bent double. Now, was that a spirit? We don't know. But I can just tell you it left, whatever it was. And, you know, it doesn't really matter. We just pray for them and ask God to do what he does best. So, but it's important to see that even something like bent double, you would go, well, that's obviously not a demon. Jesus said, yeah, it was. You know? Now, Am I saying that all? No, I'm not saying that at all. All back problems? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying it can be, right? Because we can see in our Bibles that it can be, okay? All right? And she was bent double and could not straighten up at all. And when Jesus saw her, now notice this, when he saw her, he called her over. That's the first thing that we want to notice about what he did. He saw her and called her over. Now, if she had came tugging on his garment like the other lady with the blood flow, that would be different. But notice that he saw her and called her over. Very important, okay? Woman, you are freed from your sickness. That's strange talk, you know? Can you imagine the doctor saying, you're freed from your sickness? You know? Jesus has problems, you know. He doesn't really know how things work, you know. But he knew, see, it was caused by a demon, and he freed her of the demon. And he said, you're freed from your sickness, because he knew what caused the sickness, okay? And he laid his hands upon her, and immediately she was made erect again and began glorifying God. And that's what people do. They get healed, you know, glorify God. And the synagogue official, indignant because Jesus had healed on the Sabbath. Now, isn't that something, you know? See, religion always, it has to control everything. Nothing can get out of their control. And anyway, he says, there are 6 days which work should be done. Therefore, come bring them and get healed, and not on the Sabbath day. But the Lord answered him and said, you hypocrites, does not each of you on the Sabbath untie his ox or his donkey from the stall and lead him away to water him? And the woman, now here's the important part, a daughter of Abraham as she is. You realize he said that twice. He says she's a daughter of Abraham. Because the reason he saw her and called her over is he knew. He knew she was a daughter of Abraham. He knew that she was one of God's own. And he says, that's not supposed to be on you. Come over here. See, that's what he was really doing. And he's a daughter of Abraham as she is, whom Satan has bound. Satan has bound. Who bound? Who bound her?
Satan.
Satan. Okay, we got. I know that's hard to read out of that, get out of that, but it's there, isn't it? Satan has bound for 18 long years. Should she not have been released from this bond on the 7th day? And I can just tell you, Jesus did it intentionally because of the Sabbath day, because he wanted to confront their traditions, which was keeping people in bondage. And we got the same thing today. I can just tell you, if he was here today, he'd be quite controversial, because he would confront all these religious traditions that are blocking God's people from being set free. And so anyway, I wanted to point that out. Now, Jacob had an encounter, didn't he? And it says with a man, and let's look at it. Genesis 32. I just put it there for your reference, but I didn't think I would have time, but okay, I'll get to it here. I get busy talking and I don't move fast enough. Okay, Genesis 32 in verse 22. Now he arose that same night and took his 2 wives, this is Jacob, his 2 wives and 2 maids and his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. And he took them, how do you pronounce it, Rick?
You need education here. Jabbok?
Yeah, Jabbok.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to pronounce a lot of stuff, and that's Bible, so. But it wasn't given to the wise or intelligent. So I'm safe. And he took them and sent them across the stream, and he sent across whatever he had. So he sent everything. And then Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. So it says a man. Okay, and when he saw that he had not prevailed against him, in other words, the man, touched the socket of his thigh, so that the socket of Jacob's thigh was dislocated while he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking." But he said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." And he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And he said, "Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God." That's important. So now you know who the man was. "And with men, and have prevailed."
Okay, what am I telling you?
Jacob's pretty strong.
The blessing is not an automatic thing. You have to wrestle for it. You have to want it. You have to crave it. You have to desire it. You have to fight for it. And even risk your life at times to partake of it. And, we see a little thing like, blessed are the peacemakers. Yeah, a little blessing, And, I tell you, without the blessing, it's not going to be a pretty sight. We need that blessing. Desperately need that blessing. And so when he says, blessed is, are you when men persecute you, speak all kinds of evil against you, that's big stuff, I call that laying up heavenly treasures. We think if we give something to a charity, we laid up heavenly treasures. Well, that might be the case if we're walking in the gospel. But I can tell you, if we're not walking in the gospel, we're not laying up heavenly treasures. And so when you bless those that curse you, you pray for those that mistreat you, you are actually laying up treasures in heaven. And and I try to lay this out. I wish there was a way I could, but I'll say it this way, okay? When you obey the gospel concerning offenses, and when somebody offends you greatly and you obey the gospel, you are a living sacrifice for God. He said, make your bodies a living sacrifice. Now, if you want to read everything in the natural that way, then just go out and sacrifice yourself. But obviously that's not what it's talking about. Make your body a living sacrifice. We teach things like dying to the flesh, which is a basically a biblical truth. But we don't teach how to do it. And do you just stand there and grunt? Is that how you're going to die to the flesh? No, you do it by obeying the gospel according to Jesus. And so when somebody offends you greatly, okay, you make yourself a living sacrifice. In other words, you impart life to that person. Now, Paul said, you have not yet suffered to the point of shedding blood in your striving against sin. Now, I'm going to give you an opinion. I do this, I say, most of the time, the stuff I teach, I'm teaching absolute because I know it. But then there's times when I say, I'm going to give you an opinion. There is a difference between the two. But this is my opinion. When you turn the other cheek, when you bless those that curse you, you are shedding blood for them. Now, it's not talking about, well, they hit me on this cheek and now I'm bleeding here. You know, it's not talking about that. These are things that are written in the Spirit. This is what I call the language of the Holy Spirit. In His language, when you lay your life down for somebody, you're shedding blood for them. Now, that brings about a good question. Does it do any good? I mean, that God asks you to do it, expects you to do it, requires you to do it, and you do it, does it do any good? You say, well, yeah, nothing changed. Don't believe that, folks. I'm telling you, something did change. Because He accepts those sacrifices. With such sacrifices, God is pleased. That's in Hebrews 13, the last verse. With such sacrifices, God is pleased. It says, don't neglect doing good and sharing. With such sacrifices, God is pleased. He likes those. You know why? Because He sees Jesus doing it, not you. It's the life of Christ being laid down for that person. Remember that scripture that I read to you a week ago Sunday? In Hebrews it says, Christ died for sins also. Wow, what a statement, you know. And I mean, I wouldn't have came out with that, you know, but the writer of Hebrews did. And no, I'm sorry, Peter wrote it.
Peter, yeah.
And you know, Christ died for sins. In other words, when you lay down your life, something big happens. Did anything happen when Jesus laid down His life? Of course He did. And it's the same. We are Him in the world today. So when you make your body a living sacrifice daily, dying daily, it's not talking about grunting and, I was a sacrifice today. It's not, you know, it's talking about obeying the commands of Jesus, which is really the whole Bible. The whole Bible is really the commands of Jesus, because it's all condensed into loving the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, loving your neighbor as yourself. So when you bless those that curse you, something took place in the spiritual realm, something big. And you became a living sacrifice for that person. Now, opinion. This is opinion. Number one, God honored that sacrifice. This person who is offending you, there is a spirit in that person that's doing this. That's why, you know, they're going to come and speak all kinds of evil against you and everything. There's a spirit behind this. There always is, folks. These, you know, people, you know, they shoot a thought to their mind and it comes out their mouth. And that's how a spirit works. You know, remember he said, he goes, I'm afraid, Paul said, lest as Satan deceived Eve, that your minds would be led astray. You know, it's your mind. That's where all the whole war is taking place, in your mind. And so this spirit speaks to their mind, and it comes out their mouth, and then it becomes part of their actions. Okay, now this sacrifice. First of all, can you imagine? You actually got to be the person that laid down your life for them. And there's no greater love than that, by the way. Okay? Now, what takes place for that person? We don't really know. But I can tell you that God honored it. Now, they may not deserve it, which none of us did we? You know, but they may not deserve it. But a sacrifice was made for them. Okay? Second, I believe that spirit in that person, they just hit something that they really didn't realize was going to happen, because the last thing they expected was you to offer a sacrifice by remaining silent, and exactly like Jesus did. And so that spirit has got to deal with this, which I believe this gospel is a powerhouse. And, there's a little book, I gave it to Rick today, but this brother down in Columbia wrote it. It's called The Beatitudes, God's Plan for Battle. The Beatitudes, God's Plan for Battle. See, he saw something. And when I saw that title, I went, oh my gosh, I got to read that, because that's exactly what I'm teaching you. The Beatitudes, or the Sermon on the Mount, or the teachings of Jesus are your plan for battle. Okay? So these people, they come up and offend you. You become a living sacrifice for them. You lay down your life. I mean, no one's ever accused me of teaching too complicated. There we go. Boy, that's as simple as it gets, And that's my part. Is to I don't care anything about what's taught out there. I grew up in church, and I know what's being taught. But I just tell you, and this is big stuff for God. Even for us, even to know it, that we can. But you become a living sacrifice for that person, and I believe God will honor that in their lives. And you say, "Man, they don't deserve it. You don't know what they." I'm just telling you. God says, "I got a plan. If you'll just work the plan. If you work the plan, I got a plan." And I believe God. If God's people understood this, it transformed the world. Transformed the world. And I believe this is how the message is preached. Paul called it the foolishness of the message preached. They think that means that the story about Jesus is foolishness. No. It's his teachings they thought was foolishness, because he said, if someone comes up and strikes you in the cheek, you got to offer the other, And, I mean, I'm telling you, to the lost world, that's foolishness. But the sad thing is, it is to the church too. They think that's foolishness. This is big to know this. So, anyway, my goal is not just to teach you how to get healed. If we don't heal the body of Christ from this place that we're walking in deception of all these religious things that, I mean, you say, that's it. I'm not going to believe anything from my past. You know what? You can't do that. It has to be driven out with truth. You can't give up anything. It's part of you. And I think that's probably because it's a spirit too, but it's a religious spirit. But you can't get rid of it. You have to drive them out with truth. And so I'm trying to teach you some truth here about all these sicknesses. If I tell you how to get healed, and I don't teach you why we're sick, why then I've done you a great disservice. Now, I'm going to give you an opinion about health, and I'll end with this. The human body is kind of amazing. When you think about it. I mean, we grew up, we don't even think about it because we grew up with it, right? And so I get a big old cut right there. I mean, it's all raw and bleeding and everything. And I mean, you watch that, you clean it up, make sure there's no germs and stuff on it. And you watch that, and that thing will literally heal up on its own. I mean, to me, that's amazing. I'm talking about you can skin your knee, and the next day it'll be scabbed over. And you go, wow, that's kind of amazing. You know what? It's the exact same way internally. It is. That's the way you were made. Now, so this is, this is what, if people could understand that, like I said, I'm not known for being real complicated. My stuff's pretty simple to understand that I share. But if you can understand that same thing that took place there, you watch that thing go from this horrible, torn, cut, bleeding, and you watch it scab over, and eventually the scab falls off. And eventually there's nothing left but maybe a little scar. And you go, do you know what kind of miracle that is?
for that to happen. I mean, that is amazing. Now, internally, you were made the same way. Now, this is what I teach people. And, I have read everything I can get my hands on now for 29 years about cancer. And I'm talking about, I read and read, and I watch videos, because I want to know what's being said. And see, people, they'll tell you, you listen to that guy, you'll be deceived. No, you're not going to be. You say, what do you think, I'm some little 4-year-old or something? I can listen to things without being deceived. I can discern if it's worth listening to or not. I like to know what's being said. I really do. And I go out of my way to hear what's being said. And it's like Milt Green said to us, you got to spit up some sticks, because you're gonna hear a lot of junk, but you're gonna get some stuff that you can come in agreement with too. So, okay, so now, I don't even remember what age it was when I heard about an immune system, but you have an immune system in your body, and you can't just prick your finger, take a little blood, and go, okay, my immune system is at 80%. You can't do that. There is no test. I mean, they can kind of tell you with all the different parts of a blood test, but you don't know. And so now, when you catch cancer, I'm using the word catch intentionally because that's what people say. You don't just catch cancer, but when cancer comes visiting you, why, the first thing you should ask yourself is, why did I get it? In other words, spiritually and physically. Now, if your immune system is where it's supposed to be, and so I'm going to say, I'm going to say this imaginary line right here, is you have to have, see, this is the perfect immune system. This is a dead immune system. And right about here is the place where you have to be in order for your body to do what that did. Okay? So let's say you have a kidney that develops cancer, or liver that develops cancer, and your body says, oh, we have a problem, and it sends the immune system to take care of the problem. Well, if the immune system is overtaxed and weak, that it won't do it. And so you're in danger, because that cancer, which comes often, we have cancer come visit a lot, many different reasons, and I could prove to you a lot of the reasons if I had the time, but the question is, why did that immune system not take care of it? Okay, there's a book, and I referenced it in the Surviving Cancer, called The Third Opinion, and they list every alternative cancer clinic in the world, and that they have researched every one of them, and they say these are ones that we have certified work. There's like 56 of them, I think. You go, 56 different cures for cancer? No, one. There's only one. See, that immune system, every one of those 56 bring that immune system up. So let's say, we're just going to make it up, I just make up figures on it. Let's say that it takes 70 to 80% immune system to kill that cancer. Now, if you're fighting something else, like say you got flu and your body's fighting the flu, it may not get around to fighting that cancer because the flu is an immediate problem. Cancer can be delayed. We'll fight it later, okay? Well, if you keep having things like that flu, it may never get to that cancer, but cancer is actually, it usually takes a long time, so it gives the body time to get to that, okay? So this immune system has, let's say it's running 70 to 80%. Now, what causes this immune system to drop? Well, first of all, if your mother was very deficient
and she didn't, let's say she lived on Doritos and Cokes, she's probably not going to pass on to you a very good immune system, okay? Second, when you're born, she says, well, I don't want to nurse you, we'll just give you some formula, and that formula doesn't have the immune system in it, and therefore you're kind of born, so you kind of have to develop it after you're born, which is, it's a strike against you, okay? So anyway, I tell you this, prescription drugs, every one of them lower your immune system. You say, can you prove that? Yeah, I can. I know that. I can show it to you, but it takes, you can't do it in a sentence, But, okay, non-prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, they lower your immune system. Hard drugs, illegal drugs, they definitely lower your immune system. Some are more than others. And chemicals, even, let's say that you clean houses for a living. You breathe out, okay? Your immune system goes down. And then, and you're eating stuff that raise it, and you're spraying stuff and bathing and stuff and who knows what all. At work, you're, maybe you work in a steel mill, or you work in a coal mine, or you work in a factory that makes paint. I have no idea. If it's chemicals, it's lowering your immune system. So, do you know it? No, you don't know it. So it's coming down, 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 down. And then, maybe in your family, they'll say, well, did your parents, every time I go to the VA, they say, did your mother or dad have heart disease, cancer, all the things. And I just tell you, cancer, a weakness in one of your organs might come from your family, but the cancer didn't come from your family. You had to earn it on your own. Nobody can help you. They might give you a weakness. So let's say you have a weakness in a kidney, well then if you give it the opportunity, where the weakness would be where it would attack, okay? So that immune system down there. Now, all of those different alternative medicines from around the world, like 56 of them, they do one thing, raise that immune system. So the doctor comes along and says, I'm going to give you chemotherapy, and you say, well, what's that going to do? Well, it's going to kill the cancer. Does it do anything else? Well, yeah, it destroys your immune system. Not yet. You go, something's just not jiving here now. In order to heal my body to heal itself, I got to have an immune system that's above this level, and you're going to destroy it. Well, what happens after you've destroyed it? Because I'm not going to have an immune system left to fight anything. And so, because it's fighting hundreds of things, not just the cancer, okay? So, anyway, it doesn't even make sense, but anyway, but don't be intimidated by others. I guess that's probably my best message is you do what you think is right. No one can make these decisions for you. And, I did have a foot taken out of my colon. If I had to do it over again, I probably wouldn't do that again. I'd probably go another way. It wasn't until after the surgery that I found out what I was doing was working, but I didn't know that. And because the doctors were telling me it was the size of a cantaloupe, and it's all, now they can't even help me, and because I waited too long, all this stuff. So anyway, so all these things. So now I've done 30-day water fast twice. Why? My immune system. When I have a problem, I gotta get it up, and I gotta get it up quick, because that's the only thing that can heal that on the inside is that immune system. So I've done 45 days on raw, 100% raw twice. And I can tell you, that your immune system will just go boom. Now, if you were sleeping in a paint factory, it might not, you know, or who knows, you know, you manufacture cleaning supplies, you know, or maybe, you know, all day long you're spraying and cleaning with no gloves on, you know, like we always did our whole lives, you know. I never cleaned a bathroom. I own 23 restaurants. I can assure you I have cleaned a lot of bathrooms, but I never did it with gloves on. And you know, I remember this stuff we used to put on the stainless steel. It just made it shine, and all of a sudden they wouldn't send this to us anymore. We said, "Hey, what's the problem? Why can't we get that?" They go, "They found out it causes cancer." And here we, you know, every day I'm putting it on all this metal, had it on my hands, went home, went to bed with it on my hands, and went to sleep with it on my hands, didn't even know it, you know. And, you know, there's many reasons why your immune system gets lower and lower and lower. And, you know, one of them is eating and drinking all this stuff that we know better. And so anyway, I'm just telling you, if you want to fight it naturally, there's one way to fight it. There's really only one, as far as I'm concerned. Get your immune system up and get it up fast. And you know, there's 50 ways to do it if you want to do it. But you can't do them all. You're gonna have to choose one or maybe two. You know what I mean? And so all the clinics in Mexico, which I went to 2 of them in Mexico, and you know, it was 5 years. I went for 5 years to the clinic down there, and they gave me a herbal formula, and it, you know, they told me after the surgery, he said that you won't live more than 2 years because it was in your liver. Once it's in your liver, they give you less than 2 years, even if you cut it off. They still, and anyway, but 29 years I'm here. But the reason naturally is that if I think I'm starting to develop a problem, I immediately do something extreme. I'm an extremist, I gotta admit that. And that's my wife's sister said. She says, "You're right, you are an extremist." So anyway, my message to you is, don't let anybody else make your decision for you. Don't let anybody else intimidate you, even me. And you do what you feel is right, and we first run to God and find out what God thinks. All right?
Amen.